You better apologize.
I do.
All right, I think we're live here. Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal.
That would make me terrible, Troy.
And we're joined by Deborah Voorhees of Friday the 13th Part 5 and director of 13 Fanboy. It's very cool to have you here.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So I think probably a lot of the audience is familiar with 13 Fanboy, but if they're not, can you give them an idea of what it's about?
Yes, an obsessed fan that stalks with the intention to kill several members from Friday the 13th and the fabulous Dee Wallace from Halloween.
Yes, and she's great. She's
watch great to find out who lives and who dies.
Exactly. So when did the idea to make this come about?
Well, I was chatting with my producing partner at the time. His name's Joel Paul Reisig. And we were actually talking about making a different film. And so he just asked me, he said, what is it like at these horror conventions? And I said, well, there, it's like hanging out with a whole bunch of kids who like to dress up for Halloween. It's, a lot of fun. And he said, well, has there ever been a scary moment? And I said, no, not really. Not at a horror convention ever, it's just, pretty laid back and chill. And he goes, okay, but has anything weird or creepy ever happened? And I said, okay, well, there's a couple things that just kind of unnerved me. And there's a few more than this, but these are the two examples I gave him. I told him, I said, well, one time on Facebook, I got a message from someone that said, wouldn't it be cool if you died in real life like you did in Friday the 13th? I thought, well, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
So I blocked the person.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, I don't know if it was the same person or not. I'm sitting at home. It's late at night. I'm working on a screenplay. I have a single light on. I have French doors and the drapes aren't drawn on them. And pretty much just woods out and around me. And I get my phone dings. I take a look and it said, I'm watching you. I'm like, okay, that's creepy. And then I get ding, ding, ding. And the person makes it clear that he's pretending to be Jason and he's pretending to be at my house to kill me. So right about that time, my producing partner said, that's our movie.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but that line is in the movie a couple times about what
it is. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so you have a lot of Friday 13th alumni in Dee Wallace, as you mentioned. Did you know most of them, from the conventions, I assume, once you start doing them,
well, I really hadn't done too many at that point.
Okay.
I've done only really, I don't even know if I've done 10 yet, but I've just done a handful. My life's pretty busy doing a lot of things, but once I started doing them, I was much more open to it because they are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I had met Judy and of course I knew Ron Sloan from Part 5 and such, but it wasn't like I knew everybody, but there's something about being a part of the franchise, being a part of Friday the 13th, and even being a part of the slasher genre that it's all in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really like gathering family together, like calling up your father's brother that you haven't ever met who lives across the country kind of thing, but you're still, hey, I'm your niece.
Yeah. When you said, everyone is, except for these couple people are nice at the conventions, because when we first started to go, you do think maybe it's going to be all people in black shirts like this and covered in tattoos or so. But I think there's all horror really, there's all different audience for horror. And it seems like the horror fans are very accepting, like they accept everybody.
I think so too. It is a mixed group. I mean, you do have people who love tattoos, rock and roll. I mean, you can have, a certain genres that you pretty much know are going to also love horror.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's not all the way across the board, but there definitely is that element of it. But I do think horror fans are very accepting and easy to get along with.
Yeah. Now, did you know, obviously Friday the 13th, you probably always knew had a following, but did you know that, it had such a following until you got online?
That actually was a huge, big difference for me because yes, I knew there was a following, but once the internet came along and once I got online, that's when I realized how huge it was. Because there isn't a day doesn't go by where fans aren't reaching out. Mm-hmm. And of course, I have my own horror group now.
Yeah.
Deborah Voorhees Sheer Horror Group on Facebook. And, it's just, it was definitely a lot bigger than I knew.
Yeah. And they helped a lot, I assume, to get the movie made.
For 13 Fanboy, yes. We had most of our funding came from individual and investors, but the Indiegogo, I really felt very strongly, especially given the topic of this and that we're bringing back Friday the 13th people and Dee Wallace from Halloween. See, fans had been asking me for quite a while to do something with their favorite actors from the franchises. And to me, to not include them would have been a huge misstep. So I didn't just include them in doing the Indiegogo. I wanted to be able to put them in the credits, of course, which is the Indiegogo. And then I gave people an opportunity in my group. I announced to everybody, when auditions were happening, so they could send in their auditions via Zoom. When I needed visual art, because in this, Dee Wallace is a painter in this film. And so I needed art to represent her and be in her art studio. So I put that up. I invited people to come and send things for music, popular style music. I had a composer, but I needed popular style music. And we ended up using 2 different people for music. We used at least 4 people for art, visual arts. I also invited people to send in their photographs because, you have to have photos around the house, on the refrigerator and that sort of thing. So I tried my best to really open the door and bring them into it. Oh, they were invited to come for our horror convention scene. So,
yeah, that works perfect. Yeah.
So lots of stuff.
Yeah. That was at what, Monster Palooza?
Well, actually, no, we didn't. Okay. We created everything we shot. We created ourselves.
Oh, okay.
After that, though, I was planning on going to a convention and shooting at a convention, but that's when COVID hit and they were shut down. So I got a hold of James at Dead Meat, and he had some footage that would work for us. And so we were able to use that.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it blends right in the movie. I thought, you shot at a convention, and yeah, so that totally works. Yeah. Now, how did your you know that Friday the 13th has a bigger following when you get online, and now you're really interactive with your fans. Before that time, like, what did you think of the Friday the 13th franchise? Were you happy that you were part of the franchise, or was it something you didn't like to talk about?
Oh, no, of course. Absolutely. It was when it actually happened, and shooting and everything is, of course, much smaller than all of my interactions since then. But no, I'm very proud to be a part of the franchise and be a part of a film that has touched so many people over so many, literally decades and multiple generations. Is pretty exciting, and I feel incredibly blessed to be a part of it.
And part 5, when it came out, a lot of people didn't like it because I don't want to spoil the movie if people haven't seen part 5, but it's it's not necessarily Jason. But I think it's really grown in popularity over the years, and I think it's really found its audience.
It absolutely has. And the one thing, though, to also remember, well, there's a couple things really. First of all, part 5 is actually more closely related to the first one than all of the others in the franchise, because it was about a bereaved parent losing their mind and just randomly killing people who really had nothing to do with it, their child's death.
Mhm.
So it's more true to the franchise, the start of the franchise.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually never thought of it that way, but still, that's definitely true.
Right. The other thing, I honestly have never seen that, what other people talk about. They keep telling me that it was, people were angry about it. And I know that there were some, and I think that sometimes they could be vocal. And I think sometimes there's also a little bit of the cool factor. Well, if he doesn't like it, I don't want to admit I
Right.
like it. But invariably, I really think it's much smaller than people think. I think they just happen to be the loud ones. And I didn't even know that was happening until a few years ago. Because I was like going, really, what? No, I'd never even heard it. I never even heard somebody mention it. But when I do talk to somebody now who says they didn't like it because of that, every single one will admit they absolutely loved it. It was a fabulous laugh until that last second of the reveal. And I'm like, well,
Oh, okay.
maybe you need to rethink your thoughts on this.
Yeah. Andrew in the chat says it's awesome that the fans were so involved, and that's always great to see. And you kind of answered this, but you want to know how it felt to be part of one of the biggest horror franchises.
Right.
That's a pretty elite group, you know.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. And so 13 Fanboy, it's streaming on sites now. Is there a physical release?
For 13 Fanboy? Yes, absolutely. Well, first last October, we opened up in theaters, and then we are streaming. We're on Showtime right now. We're on Vudu, Amazon. We're on iTunes, Google Play, several others streaming platforms. We've been on Comcast, Charter, a lot of the cable channels. And so, yeah, there's a lot of huge things going on right now.
What was that like as a filmmaker to, we'll talk about the making of, but you finished the movie and then like trying to, I guess that would be a new thing you have to learn, how to get the movie out there in modern day.
Absolutely. Well, you have to get a distributor to help you. And for physical copies, for people who want to actually own a copy so they can get it autographed, they're at Walmart, Target, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all of those too.
Yeah.
So
very cool. So when you're actually making the movie, what was were you making it during COVID? Because you said you had to film the convention stuff.
Well, yes, no, when we were filming, it was all pre-COVID or pre-knowing about COVID.
Right.
And so literally when we stopped was when the news started breaking. So
you had most of it finished.
We had to find a real convention to pull from.
Right, I understand. So, but how did that affect editing the movie and releasing it?
Well, it actually ended up working in our favor because
free time
is fairly solitary. It was myself and one other person editing, so it worked out fine for that. Now, it made it a little bit more difficult for getting distribution and that sort of thing because they were shut down.
Right.
But for the editing part, it worked out. And in one way, it worked out really brilliantly. I was able to get a top-notch sound design artist out of London to work on the film. And he was at a point in his career that a small indie would not have been on his radar. And so, but because of that, and I came highly recommended by a friend of his and a coworker of his, and who happens to be our composer, I was able to get him. So that was a really terrific thing actually for me.
Yeah. How about Harley? She's Haley. She's kind of like the lead of the movie.
Right.
Where did you how did you get her?
Yeah, Haley and Dee Wallace are, of course, the two
Yeah.
in the film. And I had Vincent DeSante was our stuntman in the film. And he, I checked with him. I said, hey, look, I'm looking for a leading lady, told him what I was looking for. And he gave me probably at least I think probably 5 names. And Haley was one of them. And I auditioned her first on Zoom because she was out in Los Angeles. Then I invited her to come out and do our Indiegogo video with us. And after I had her here, I knew she was my badass Haley, or Kelsey Voorhees, for the film. And how I knew it was we were supposed to shoot a scene where she was supposed to jump off a cliff and into water. And the water is very deep and very cold. And I had, and there were many reasons. I saw that she was very talented as a actress as well. But I also needed somebody who could do physical work, because that huge fight scene she had, all of that was her own stunt work. She did a bit of it. And I told her, don't worry, I will have you there before dark so you can see clearly the cliff and see clearly where you're going to be jumping in. And I had already made 1,000% certain that this was a good spot for the jump. You know, it was a common place that everybody went out to and jumped off or dove off, and it was very, very deep. And well, I was wrong. Apparently I lied. It was dark when we got there. And I told her, look, we'll take a look at it. We'll shoot a couple other things. We can come back tomorrow for you to take, you know, see it and make sure you're comfortable with this jump. And she goes, nope, let's do it. And she did. She jumped off of it 3 times. And it was pretty fantastic.
Now, I've seen that you've directed some shorts and a feature before. Have you ever directed action scenes before?
Let's see. No, these were my first actions. Yeah, the Indiegogo, we had some action in that, and then this film. Yeah.
Was that different for you? Was that difficult? How was that different than you thought it was?
I love it. Okay, I absolutely love it. I love doing the kills, the action scenes, the fights, everything, because it's like sleight of hand. It's magic, making you think something's happening that's not.
Yeah, and all the action looks really good in the movie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Actually, the movie itself looks really good. It's shot really well. It's lit really well. Cinematography is good.
Thank you.
And Vincent, I don't go too much into it, but if people know his background, I think his role in the movie is very interesting.
Right. He is an incredibly talented stuntman. One of the things that's required, the most important thing that's required of a stuntman, is to keep the actor safe. And so while it may look like they're massacring, killing this person, you have to have an incredible amount of strength, especially for some of the things we were doing where you noticed he was picking people up, slamming them on the ground, slamming them into trees. Well, all of that had to look like a hard slam, but not hurt the actor.
Right.
So it takes an incredible amount of discipline and physical ability.
And a great fight scene with CJ Graham.
Oh yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah. That was and a lot of times when the people from the franchises win their movie, it's basically a cameo, but everyone in this movie actually has a role, which I think
absolutely.
They don't just pop up and hey, that's CJ Graham, that's cool, but yeah, he's in it.
Right.
Yeah. And you mentioned Ron Sloan. He seems like a very fun person to be around. I've actually never met him, but he is fun to be around.
He really is. He's a lot of fun and he's very kind. And as you know, he played Dee's husband in this, and their chemistry was just perfect through the whole thing. And the one scene where they really got into that huge fight.
Mhm.
Everybody on set, it was such an intense fight. For everybody on set, it was like, oh no, mom and dad are fighting.
It's funny you said they have a lot of chemistry. I'll admit I Googled, I was like, are they actually married since they both play each other? I was like, I don't think they are, but I looked it up just to make sure.
And lots of people did.
Yeah, and that was very funny. So Dee Wallace herself, we mentioned her, obviously.
Mhm.
Iconic actor, I would say. Was she
Yes.
on board right away when you was she like your first pick for this role, and was she on board right away?
She actually was. It was, I was really thrilled about it. She read the screenplay, and the first thing she said to us was, why didn't anybody think of this before?
Well, you can't. Yeah, that's you can't ask for a better compliment.
Yeah, I wasn't just asking my actors to come on board and be stalked and potentially killed.
Mhm.
I was asking these people to come on board and play themselves being stalked and killed. There's a higher level of anxiety when you're asked to play yourself being stalked, as opposed to you're playing a character that's not you.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, pretty intense.
Yeah. And was there anyone, you don't have to name names, but was there anyone that you asked and they're like, well, I don't want to do this for various reasons?
Actually, Adrienne King, we talked to her early on about coming on board for one of the roles. And she, as you may know, she actually had a stalker in real life.
Oh, when you said, I thought maybe that could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an extremely intense situation. And she just didn't feel like it was work for her to do that.
Mhm.
I completely understand.
Oh yeah.
You feel
Something
that
like
way.
that.
Now, another interesting thing, though, is Judy Aronson, who's also in the film. She, as you know, is from part 3. Wait, did I have that right? Yeah, part 3. She had a stalker, and so did Lar Park Lincoln from part 7. She had a stalker. Now, Lars was Friday the 13th related. Judy's was not. But Lars' situation was also very serious, like Dee's was. In fact, she was even shot at.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned a couple things, but hopefully you never had anything, more serious. Not that
Right.
someone's saying it's cool. It would be cool if you died like you did in your movie isn't serious.
Right.
It's a very weird thing to mention to message someone.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
exactly.
These are things like I never really thought of.
Right. Who would?
Yeah, right.
That's probably a good thing, right?
Yeah.
I thought about it. Though.
I guess you'd worry a little more about me if I'm like, yeah, it's something I always think about.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. Oh, that was me.
I know you've probably been asked this a million times, but did you is Voorhees your last name? And did that have anything to do with getting cast in the original movie?
Well, let me ask you, if I was 6'10", do you think I would have been and couldn't act? Would I be cast in that film in that role?
No, maybe.
Okay, there you go.
Right.
But yes, it's been in my family since at least the 1300s.
Oh, wow. A perfect year to 1300.
Right?
Yeah.
Now you want to hear something even crazier?
Yeah.
My grandfather's last name was Voorhees. My grandmother's last name was Higgins. You remember Higgins Haven in part 3?
Okay. No.
My middle name is Sue. I've been told, although I haven't verified it, that Pamela's Voorhees' middle name is Sue in the film.
Oh, that's
so I think I was meant to be in this film.
Yeah. Before 5 comes along, and when Friday the 13th starts to get popular, before you're even connected, did people start I don't know, making jokes or just saying things about your last name?
I think more than anything, people are surprised.
Right.
Some people recognize right off Deborah Voorhees as Tina from Friday the 13th. Some recognize it as Voorhees as Jason, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it is I don't think it's not a common last name.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Walter Rivero says Friday 5, he loved it, and he also loved 13 Fanboy.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's very nice of him. So did you get a chance to watch it with an audience?
I did. I have a few times. And I have to say I was very pleased. The response was really good. You could tell that their emotions were all in the right places.
Mhm.
You know, so, and that's what you want. You want emotions in the right places.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times if people do have a lot of people from like the other franchise movies, it's usually more of a comedy, but this is a pretty dark film.
Right, absolutely. It's definitely a thriller, a whodunit, and a horror slasher.
Yeah. So did you do festivals? And I assume the COVID probably affected that if you're going.
We actually didn't, but we really weren't looking for that. We were looking for, what you would do, a release like you would for a
If you already have the built-in audience, you don't really need
Right.
to do the festival route.
Right.
But yeah, I would think it would play well, at a convention with
Absolutely. And we are definitely open for doing that. Going forward from now on out to do that some. I'm going to be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Oh, cool.
I'll be showing it there. I will be in San Antonio. That'll be in mid-October for at the Alamo Draft House, and we'll be showing a trailer there, and then Friday the 13th Part 5. But we'll show the trailer for 13 Fanboy, and I'll have posters and stuff there, and that people can get signed if they'd like 13 Boy, as well as 13, Friday the 13th.
And for people who don't know, if you've never been to a draft house, it's a great place to watch movies. I've been to South Texas Underground Film Festival in San Antonio, and and you can eat while you're watching the movies, you can get drinks, and it's a really good experience. And it's fun to watch a movie with everybody.
Right. I love their theaters. They're really nice.
And actually, Pepe Potit had mentioned in the chat that you're coming to San Antonio, so he was excited about that.
Oh, nice.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. And it's also cool, like you said, if people want to get the copy or a poster, that's something new people can get autographed or pictures with at the conventions.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned a couple of the bad fan experiences. What are some of your most memorable fan experiences from the conventions in a good way? In a good way? Yeah.
There's been a lot of them. I've had some interesting things brought in to be signed. I've had, a guy come in with an absolutely gorgeous electric guitar that was with Friday the 13th. He was signed. One of the more unusual one, it was a full-size canoe that he was working on getting every single person from the franchise to sign. And I mean, full.
Yeah. I was thinking that's awesome, but I was also that's very it's probably awkward to get through the doors and whatnot.
It couldn't be easy, that's for sure. Probably the most touching moment was and this was very, very, very surprising because a little boy, he couldn't have been more than 10, was brought in to a convention that I was at, and he had 2 people he wanted to meet and get autographs and stuff from. That was Robert Englund and myself. And when I say he was brought in, he was on oxygen. He came in from the hospital, and it seemed to be a pretty dire kind of situation. I'm not sure if he was going to make it or not. And that one, boy, I don't even know how to describe what that like. How would it, this 10-year-old boy that I would even matter to him? Was so touching and so mind-blowing all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be something memorable. I know the first time I met Kane Hodder was right after his book came out, and there was a lot of burn victims there because he was so open about his burns, and he became like a hero to them.
Right, right.
It was nice to see. Oh, by the way, Kane Hodder is also in the movie, and
He
it was nice to
does
see him, have a more dramatic role.
He had a fantastic role in that. That story that he told about his father, that was a true story.
Oh wow!
Yeah. With each character, because I was asking them to play themselves, I tried to bring in things that were true to them, so that the essence of who they are on the screen fits. You saw how soft-spoken that CJ is. Well, that's who he is. He's a very kind, gentle giant. And he told me on set that the reason he speaks so quietly is that he knows his size can be intimidating, and he wants people to feel at ease.
Interesting.
Isn't that sweet?
Yeah, that's very sweet of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you know everyone was going to be involved then before you have the script finished, or do you kind of change it for who gets involved?
No, we worked on getting the people into the film and then writing that portion to fit them. So like, for instance, Tracy Savage, she really was a broadcast journalist. She did cover O.J. Simpson, and she really taught broadcast journalism in college.
Okay.
Those elements are in there.
Yeah. Walter wants to know, is curious as to why Corey Feldman played a producer and not himself as Tommy.
We originally asked him to come on and play himself, play Corey Feldman, but he preferred not to. Well, we had this, whacked out producer in it that we were like going, actually, this could work better. Yeah. Because he would do an absolute bang up job. And I have to say, I laughed my butt off at what he did with the role, because it was like he was channeling and embodying the worst possible scenario of a Hollywood producer. And everybody's met that guy in Hollywood. Everyone's met him. And so it was just like, oh my gosh. And plus he took our script, he looked at it and got the general feel of it, and then he went and ad-libbed. It could have been a nightmare, but he was so damn good and so funny. I thought it made that role. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah. Would you ever want to do a sequel?
It's possible. I think there's some ideas that could work for one. Yeah.
Yeah. And if not a sequel, would directing be something you'd like to continue?
Oh, of course. That's my life. I am working on a horror thriller right now.
Oh, very cool.
It's Games We Play, written by Tammy McCoy. And it is an amazing script, and we're making some great progress. I have a ghost story I'm looking at. I have a story on reincarnation, and both of those are horror thrillers as well. So yeah, absolutely.
That's very exciting. Were you a horror movie fan before you got involved in Friday the 13th?
Well, I'm going to age myself because I grew up with Universal monsters. And so
I did too, but they were
my first, introduction to them, and Dark Shadows, that sort of thing. I really liked, and I still like. I love ghost stories, and I love anything, things like Hush or Creature Features. Creature Features are some of my favorites. Anything like that. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah. And what is it about the slasher subgenre of horror that seems like it's making comeback? And what do you think it is about that people love?
I think overall with horror, it's really a safe place to experience fear, to experience the concept of death. But you walk out and you're fine, but you get that adrenaline rush. And I don't know, I think it's kind of a really neat and magical way to explore those ideas in a safe environment.
Mhm. And you mentioned, like all different age range watch, likes Friday the 13th movies. And
Yes.
I think that's, horror in general is there'd be quote unquote bigger movies that might have came out that year. If I watched like old Siskel and Eberts and movies that were up for awards, but a lot of those like people just forget over time. But
Right.
a lot of horror movies, stay with people, and have new audiences as the years go on.
Absolutely.
And there's also something about watching them with other people. I think that in comedy, it's fun to watch with people. As
Right.
opposed to sitting around and crying together,
Right.
It's not necessarily as much fun. Yeah. That's Walter says his friend Caslin was in a scene with Corey as a makeup
Oh,
girl.
yes,
Oh, in
yes.
the movie. Cool.
Oh, nice.
Caslin did a terrific job. I liked her.
Yeah. So 13 Fanboy, where can people go to? It's on everywhere. You can just put it in there and Google it.
Right. Well, if you have Showtime, it's there. Get your copies at Walmart, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target. You can watch it Showtime, Vudu, Amazon, Xbox, Google Play, iTunes.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we're all over.
Yeah.
That's good.
And you have a very interactive community on Facebook. I like that about you. You're very
Yes.
supportive of other people and they can come and share, what they have going on.
Absolutely, 100%. If it's horror, it's welcome.
I think that's very good of you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I share stuff in there.
And
I also
basically-
comment, you don't want to just go in there and spam your stuff.
Right. The only thing I ask people to be nice to each other.
Yeah.
That's really the only way that you'll, be asked to leave the group is if if you're being ugly to people and calling them stupid and stuff. It's like, no, y'all can discuss ideas all you want, but don't get personal about it,
Yeah, nobody
personal
needs that.
attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's enough of that on the internet.
That's right. That's right. And I tell them, there's lots of horror groups. They probably don't mind it, but not this one.
Right.
We do.
And Andrew says he watched it on Paramount Plus.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Very cool. All right, well, this has been very fun to talk with you, Deborah. And
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's fun to do it again sometime.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Everyone check out 13 Fanboy.
Definitely do.
Very good. And join your group.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All
Take
right.
care,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Neal, I will talk to you later.
All right. Bye.